Hello, humans! Here we are at argon, the third noble gas, famous for its lack of reactivity. Its name means lazy, and it is used in welding and such to shield processes and keep unwanted reactions from happening. A sleeping dragon was the obvious choice, and in general shape this piece came together nicely, but boy, howdy, do not get attached to the details. They gave me such hell. Usually with these paintings I start with about 3 hours of footage. Argon had 5. 5! But I trimmed it down a smidgen. If you want to encourage me after such hard work, I recommend subscribing. Get in on that ground floor. Take a screen grab of the sub count with your phone, and then if I ever meet you at a con, show me you were one of my first 100 subs and I will totally buy you a drink. And draw you a napkin dragon. Even at this point, I clearly thought the next row would be grey. I changed that decision late in the game, as you'll see next week when the background will be turquoise. This change was made because I realized belatedly that of my 4 liquid elements, 2 are in the next period. The liquids will be represented by mermaids, and I wanted backgrounds to lend themselves to a mermaid aesthetic, and in my short-sightedness I'd already used blue. So the gradient of the whole table, top to bottom, goes black, purple, blue, turquoise, green, brown, grey. This puts a brown background on my other 2 mermaids, which isn't ideal, but I think it works. If you like spoilers, you can go look at Cesium and Mercury on my Instagram and then leave me a comment saying whether it worked or not. I mean, muddy water is a thing. It's not like I made it up. Some of you will notice that I'm still using a yogurt lid as a paint palette. Believe it or not, they really are superior to buyable palettes because the dried paint peels off, plus it's free. And it's recycling. Speaking of recycling, my Jason and I recently discovered the Smuggler's Room, a YouTube channel where they creatively reuse all kinds of household plastics and other stuff into Star Wars-style things, and they make it look really fun, and I totally blame them for our sudden interest in taking apart old electronics and hoarding Simply Juice lids. You've probably already watched them, but if you haven't, go! Watch! They are an absolute delight. I cannot claim to be as big a Star Wars nerd as they are, nor am I certain what we're going to do with all our Greeblies, since the area I would be tempted to go all space opera deco on is the room where my father-in-law lives, and I don't think he'd like it. He's not a nerd at all. Except maybe for the Broncos, and I have no interest in Broncosing out our downstairs den. Eek. You are seeing me here work obsessively on the tail. The reason for that is I really wanted Argon to look like he's got feathers, and my plan was to paint the feathers individually. It's not a perfect plan, and I'm going to be fiddling with it for ages to make the feathers look less like scales, but there you go. My skill is not on a level where I could just make him all sleek and ducky. It's so hard to get the reflectiveness right. While I futz around with shadows and feathers, let's talk chemistry. Argon makes up about 1% of our atmosphere and is the most plentiful noble gas in the Earth's crust. Argon has plenty of mundane uses, such as the preservation of food and wine, even paint. It gets added before the package is sealed, thereby driving out the air and preventing oxidation. It can also be found as thermal insulation in expensive windows and, oh damn, plasma globes! Damn it, I wish I'd incorporated one. Those are so freaking awesome. But anyway, on a more exotic level, argon is used to search for dark matter and in neutrino experiments. In gas discharge lamps, it glows lavender, mostly, but sometimes sky blue, which is the basis for this color choice. Should I have made him lavender? Oh dear. Now I'm riddled with self-doubt. If you think I should repaint him lavender with a plasma globe, leave a comment. If you think he's cute enough as is, leave a comment. Just leave a comment. Oh, I have depressed myself. Subject change! There was a period of time when I was crazy about dragon tattoos. I was gonna get a dozen, all styles, all over the place. I still want my woodcut from the book dragon between my shoulder blades, but the rest of them I've outgrown the need for. I currently have 4 tattoos, an amateurish tribal ankle frog, the abstract spiky blue lower back piece I got on my 24th birthday, the kanji from Mother on the back of my neck from when my bestie and my firstborn all got tatted together, and of course my forearm Tolkien quote to celebrate surviving cancer. At this point, I still want the aforementioned dragon, a favorite saying of mine translated into Sindarin and written in Tengwar just over my back tribal, and an ankle badger. But that's all I'm lacking. Are you tattooed? Show me pictures. Clean ones. I love skin art. I met a man on a train in 1998 named, I swear, Snidely Whiplash, who indeed had a curled mustache but was an absolute sweetheart, and he was covered in tats and confessed that he wanted to have his skin turned into a lampshade when he died. Sometimes I wonder if he managed to arrange that. My other good train story is when I met Luke Kelly in 2004? Maybe 5? Who is Roald Dahl's grandson, and seemed a bit startled when he told me that, and I squealed at him. It turned out that I was more familiar with his grandfather's work than he was. I'm a big old Roald Dahl fan. And so he told me on the DL that Wes Anderson was negotiating with grandmother to get the rights to Fantastic Mr. Fox, which was not public knowledge at the time, and he thought I might be excited to know it, which I was. We talked for hours, and I gave him my email, but he never wrote to me. Probably too busy being a Vogue photographer. Might have decided he didn't like me. Or perhaps he just got his laptop stolen and has been regretting it ever since. Hey, Luke, if you're out there, I'm sorry if I offended you by making out with that random boy instead of you. Can we be friends? I still think you're cool. Now let's talk about the painting for a minute, because what the hell was I thinking with that right claw? Why is it even there? I get so obsessive sometimes with making sure every detail is visible. I might be a closet cubist. Like, I cannot show you a chair unless I show you all sides of the chair, and how the chair feels, and what I think of the chair, and who built it, and why. So the good news is, I will eventually nix the awkward arm. The bad news is, I work on it first for way too long. Still, the feathery wings are coming along nicely, and I like that little haunch. Looks kinda cat-like. Cute. The wings owe less to observations of birds than to the old Pegasi project. I've brought it up before, but for those who need reminding, my sister and our friends and I all spent a winter drawing Pegasi, naming them, then eventually breeding them and drawing their offspring and learning about horse genetics, and then guessing what the wing markings would do and how those genes would transfer. By the time we stopped, we had something like 500 drawings between the 5 of us. It was really impressive. Before that, I'd never drawn a horse well, but afterwards I was pretty good. We all were. When we fleshed out Theralia, our kingdom, we decided that one of the neighboring countries would be where all the Pegasi live, so we named the field to the south Neria, and sketched in a political and social system to make it a nice place for Theralians to visit. Obviously, everyone there rode Pegasi. They were the only kingdom with an airborne cavalry. Fortunately, they were peaceful, unlike those crazy bastards in Rukielev, am I right? So, here's where I think I'm on the home stretch. You sweet summer child. Having realized late in the game that I'd forgotten the symbol, I thought this was a clever fix. And here we are, all done, and no, too boring. Neon looked more completed, with some rocks in the composition, so I was like, Argon needs that. But in this case, I wanted them to be nice, round, soft, mossy rocks, the kind that would go well with the concept of stillness, which I forgot to mention is his metaphysical meaning. And now he's not, floating in a void, and he looks much better. Now I can move on, and no, still crap, something is fundamentally wrong. Here I'm going out on a limb and seeing if maybe Argon feels better as a 2-leg dragon, which is totally not my usual style, but I'm getting desperate. At this point I've been coming back to this piece for weeks, continually unsatisfied, and it's become my nemesis. My grandmother had a story about one of her wildlife pastel drawings. It was 4 mountain goats grazing in a small upland pasture, and as soon as she finished it, it bugged her. She sent it to shows anyway, and it won awards, and still it bugged her. She hung it on the wall and let it nag at her for months. Then one morning she glanced up from breakfast and thought, "Oh, a leg is missing." One goat was behind another, and its front leg should have been visible in the gap underneath, and it wasn't. It took that long to spot it. That's what this head frill felt like. Speaking of legs, Abby took one look at this and said, "Please give him back his arms." I told him I'd put back the important one. So here we are at the actual final lap of this infuriating painting, assuming there's not a million comments tomorrow saying, "Actually, please make him lavender and give him a plasma ball, please." It's funny how the general shape never wavered, but I needed weeks to get it right anyway. And dang it, after all we've been through together, I don't mind admitting to you that I'm still not sure it's right. I may never be able to paint just exactly what I see in my head. I've spent my life trying, and I'll keep trying, and sometimes I'm proud of my work, but oh, if you could see for a moment the visions in my mind. A last-minute eye change was called for. Let it be written, and let it be done. A line I culled from fairy tale theater. The Princess and the Pea, I think it was. We used to get the videos from the library, and they were amazing. Comment if you remember that extraordinary camp, the cheap sets, and the A-list actor lineup that was one of my favorite shows growing up. Also, comment if you like my ridiculous dragon. Like and subscribe and all those sweet nothings. Remember, there's Patreon if you want to help fund this neurotic little artist. Stay healthy, and I'll see you at Potassium. If he hadn't been, out there dying of exposure, do you suppose Ben Kenobi would have just appeared to him, at the commissary? Safe and sound, but, that was just Ben's thing. Oh, it's time, I've got to tell him. Go to Dagobah, whatever he happens to be going through right now. Maybe he's on John.
He's on John, yeah. Ben! Oh, sorry. Still getting used to this.
Right. Trying to navigate. Or was it the, are we meant to believe that it's the extremity of being nearly dead that's given him the means to communicate?
That is a question. So, if I'm remembering my canon correctly, Force ghosts can only appear to Force-sensitive people. So that would definitely suggest that his nearness to, well, not suggest, but give an out for his nearness to death.
Yeah.
Gave him the ability to sense Ben better. Ben might have been trying for weeks.
Right.
You fucking inept fool!
Dagobah! Dagobah! For some reason I'm craving a bagel. No!